Hello and welcome to another rousing edition of Trending Topics with BB. I am your humble host, Brooke Brown, hence the BB. Well, we are back for a brand new episode. And before I introduce my new guest on this episode, I want to remind you to log on to the official website at trendingtopicswithbbpodcast.com. There you will find every link to every platform where this podcast is posted, as well as our social media, which includes Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram of this podcast. And that being said, if you are primarily a Apple Podcasts or Stitcher user, please leave a favorable rating or comment. It helps this podcast be found, and I appreciate all of you out there that have already started leaving ratings. It's been a labor of love for a few years, this podcast, and I'm glad that we can provide great content for you listeners out there on your daily commutes or wherever you find time to listen to this podcast. Also, if you want to suggest or have a question or just want to contact the podcast, the official email address is ttwithbbpod@gmail.com. That is also listed on our website under the news tab, along with other links and deets and past news pertaining to this podcast. Thanks again to all the new listeners and past listeners for being loyal to this podcast. That being said, my guest this week is another friend. I would say after our conversation, we are now friends more than just acquaintances. But as you might have figured out if you have been listening to a lot of episodes of this podcast, trance music and electronic dance music is huge in my life, and I like to share stories of those that are DJs and producers in the space, in the community that we call Trance Family. That being said, I have a wonderful chat with another female DJ, DJ Melodie, this week. Our chat, without really spoiling our chat, enjoy this episode with DJ Melodie. This episode is brought to you by Teeth Powder 2.0. Have you been searching for fluoride-free toothpaste alternative? Are you looking to improve your overall oral health? Then Teeth Powder 2.0 is for you. Teeth Powder 2.0 strengthens enamel, eliminates plaque, and improves your overall oral hygiene. Log on to teethpowder.com, clicking the products tab, then using promo code TTWithBB to save 15% on orders of 2 or more. Free shipping for all U.S. orders. Again, that is TEEFPOWDER.com with promo code TTWithBB. This episode of Trending Topics with BB is brought to you by Ringer. Are you thinking about starting your own podcast but need a way to interview guests long distance? Or do you have a need for a conference calling app but without the risk of software issues? Then Ringer is the app for you. After some careful research of all the apps out there on the market, Ringer became the clear favorite. Ringer can be used on your PC or Mac or smartphone through a convenient app. They have 2 inexpensive plans for you to choose from based on your needs and features to create studio quality audio. My listeners can save up to 25% on a plan using ringer.com/TTWithBB. So what are you waiting for? Have the broadcast of your life with Ringer. And that's again, for all my listeners, spelled RINGR.com/TTWithBB. Well, thank you again for willing to chat on my podcast. I really appreciate it. I've been following some really exciting gigs and developments in your world. But before we get to that, I usually kind of start with kind of the background story of how you got into trance and where your love of trance and, related electronic music began. So that's kind of my initial first question.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me on your show, Brooke. I know that you follow the trance scene, so I'm very flattered and very honored to be on your show. Thank you so much for that. So
Problem.
I started listening to trance when I was in college, and that was way back in like around 1990s, in the 2000 time where it was just beginning, and I actually was I had DJ friends that were mixing. At that time wasn't really trance, but it was just kind of like Euro trance. It was just kind of like stuff wasn't quite trance yet, but I started there, and my DJ friends were playing those stuff, and then I learned DJ at that time, and then it was like listening to ATB, Paul Van Dyke, and that really made me fall in love with trance. And I've been, doing mixes, CDs and mixes since then, and people know me from that time period because of the mixes that I made, like during that time, and later on uh, you know, I didn't really take DJing very seriously because I was young at the time, and then my parents wanted me to become a doctor, and I kind of pursued that, but I didn't become a doctor. I became a pharmaceutical sales, and what happened is that I had an accident, and that took me away from that, and I came back to music during a time when it was very difficult for me, and I was going through a lot of pain and a lot of difficult time because of the injury I had, and music helped me through that, and trance helped me through that, and just making mixes, remixes, doing compilation CDs, just doing that, giving it to other people, and having them experience my music and being happy was kind of my cure, for what I was going through, and basically that's why I became DJ, and I decided to devote the rest of my life to become a producer in trance, and then also to DJ in the trance scene. That's my history of how I became and how I got inspired and what motivated me to become where I am right now.
Awesome. So along those lines, since you've been a fan probably as long as I've been a fan,
Yeah.
and of course, as you just mentioned, reasons why you wanted to pursue it, what was, I kind of had this question for when I had Christina on the podcast. What's made that spark in you to kind of go against the grain? And what I mean by that is that there are women in trance, very few that are DJs and producers, mostly vocalists. So what made that spark in you other than maybe circumstances in your life and just straight up passion to pursue it? Because a lot of women either get discouraged based on the fact that it's mostly a male dominated field, or they switch genres. So what sparked in you to pursue it?
Well, I fell in love with trance first, and then I also love house music, but that's something that I kind of like heard later on. But I feel like trance music is very deep. It's a soul thing, and for me, it's who I am. It helps me express who I am better than any other music genre. So for me, it doesn't discourage me no matter what, because I'm expressing what I feel is me, and I'm sticking to it despite whatever's out there, whatever, maybe it's not for me, I fell in love with underground music, something that nobody's ever heard. I don't like to listen to, or I'm not, I like something to listen to that's unique and different and unheard of. And so that's what's kept me going, and, what's unique about it. And then also the fans too is, um, that are, in the genre of trance is I believe they're very deep and very loyal, and they're just exactly like me. So that's what's kept me, uh, dedicated to stay within it, and it's my passion, it's my love, and I cannot imagine doing anything else because you gotta do what you love, and dance is what I love. And the spark, um, it, I don't know, it's the I guess it's just the fans that keeps definitely keeps me within staying in the genre. Fans, definitely the fans.
Now, I mean, a lot again to go off of that, which is great because I feel the same way. But
Hmm.
have you felt a kind of an evolution from maybe like the late '90s, early 2000s to where we are now in terms of loyalty to a fault? And what I mean by that is we have all these subgenres and we have all these labels,
Hmm.
record labels, and you see within the the community, I mean, there's really passionate people about passionate artists and labels. Do you feel
Hmm.
like that it hinders the scene in any way, or do you feel like that's
Yeah,
kind of what comes with
I
the territory?
I think it does hinder it a little bit. I feel there's not it's I don't know about you, but everything sounds the same to me, and I feel that there should be. I think with how the scene is, how it is now compared to what it was before, I feel it was much more diverse, and the sounds were much more unique back then compared to now, and I kind of miss that. And that's what's another thing that kind of made me want to become a producer is to bring that to the table. So instead of just to follow the norm and doing what everybody else is doing just to get on a label or a record label, I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna bring back the old school, not be afraid of doing it. And if you know, um, it's different now for sure, and I think, uh, I think it's, um, I don't know, it's a bit boring, and I wish it could be a little bit more, um, exciting, more different. And I'm starting to see that with some of the stuff that's coming out in the last year. So I'm like really excited about that, and I hope I can be able to contribute to that as well in the upcoming year. Hope I was able
So,
to answer the
well,
question.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I agree. I also feel like maybe because I do like other genres like techno and house,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I don't see problems with kind of stepping outside the box in terms of sounds. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like we've gotten into this, I don't know if rut is the
It's
right
too.
word, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
time where
It seems a bit
people
too
are,
rigid, right? I think
yeah,
they're too.
like
Yeah. I agree.
you hear, a lot of other fellow producers or DJs acknowledging that they're trying to step outside the box, but of course they're not getting signed on the label they want. Or vice versa, there's people producing strictly to be signed on Armada or Arjuna or whatever the label may
Mm-hmm.
be. And I'm not sure if that's like, because back in the day, there really wasn't this big divide among genres in electronic music. It was
Right.
more, it's all electronic music and we're here
Cohesive.
to
Yeah.
just
It was just
enjoy it.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That's I believe in. See, I don't understand why there's so many different genres, subgenres. I think music is just music and it's universal. And so, I don't when I play music or when I select my tracks when I'm, doing performance, I tend to not stay in one area like, uplifting trance or I tend to just throw everything into a pot and like progressive trance, uplifting trance, psych trance. I'll throw it in because it's kind of like for me when you're mixing your cooking, you want to have it all different ingredients in there. And that's how I like to, present my music, because I think it's, it's universal. We live in the, we are, and music should be universal. It shouldn't be stuck or rigid. And that's what I feel. That's my take on, you know, unfortunately how I see everything is so divided. And in order to get a certain label, you have to sound a certain way. Um, but I think the labels should, maybe have a little bit more, openness to accept other sounds, or maybe have a different, yeah, I don't know. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. So that's why maybe that's why we try to find other smaller labels, or, you know, come up with your own label, or find somebody who's, uh, you're willing to work with, who's able to believe in your want to achieve. Um, yeah, it's a bit rigid. Yeah.
Now, do you think, I mean, you mentioned, and I kind of agree that there's kind of this turning point and maybe there's a little bit more awareness or life being bred into the scene, but I just could be, that also could be a result across all electronic music. But
Right.
do you feel on your end that, with that turning point, that the future is bright? And what I mean by that is, I had the privilege of going to Winter Music Conference,
Hmm.
and it didn't matter what panel or what, specifically what genre, but there seems to be this underlying, I don't know, whisper kind of acknowledgement that women as a whole in electronic music are now starting to gain a little bit more respect and notoriety throughout electronic music. Now, are you starting to feel that, being that you've been on this journey for a while and there seems to be, or is it genre specific? Because I know when I talked to Christina about this, she still
Hmm.
believes, she kind of mentioned that she still has to work really hard compared to maybe, some people in techno or house. So as a DJ and as a traveling DJ, and obviously the career you've been having, are you starting to feel it come around?
Yeah. Yeah, it's whatever Christina feels, I think I feel the same way as well. I feel the other genres, get a little bit more respect and a little bit more attention and a little bit more acknowledgement. Because, not a lot of people understand trance, and that's okay, but I feel like the trance scene is getting a little bit, it's getting there, and it's getting a lot of more notice and a lot of more respectability, um, in in comparison to other genres, for sure, yeah. And I'm excited and happy for that. It's a good time for the trans scene right now. It's definitely not dead.
So along those lines, I've noticed kind of, well, we'll get to your recent like gigs in a minute, but, um, did I see that this past year you participated in one of those, what do they call them, soundcation? Um,
Yes,
that
I did.
And how was that experience, to learn from other peers and well-respected people in trance?
Oh, it was amazing. I loved it, and I plan on going back again, maybe sometime this year, and or maybe next year, sure. It was a very good experience in terms of, like seeing a different perspective of how to create music from different people, and getting advice uh, on how to do something differently, maybe quicker, faster, smarter. As a producer, you tend to feel very lonely because you're in your room and you're doing projects, and you have nobody around. Especially uh, the this like the trance scene. in the Bay Area is starting to pick up. I do have peers and friends here that do produce, but I wanted to, get some advice and just see a different perspective from different people from around the world. And going to that was great because I was able to get an experience from people who were in Europe, in Asia, how they felt uh, about the scene, how they felt, like how what their style was and stuff like that, so I can learn and incorporate into what I'm doing. So that was very good experience. And then just meeting a lot of well-known producers like Dennis Shepard, Roger Shaw, Nate, Horticulture. Just it was just a very great experience just to see how they do things and to learn from some of the best, the greatest ones in the industry. So that was a great experience and totally worth it.
Now, I've looked into kind of the website and some of the information on it. Is it more for more established producers, or is it something that eventually could be developed for maybe those that aren't as established? What what do you suggest for somebody that thinks that experience would help them in their production?
Do you mean like the instructors? Like if what kind of instructors?
No, for somebody attending, because they
attending.
have as
Okay.
right, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to be a little bit established, or know a little more than the basics, or have done some. You don't have to have like anything made or too established. You could, but I wouldn't recommend somebody that's just a beginner. You would have to know uh your DAW system. You would have to know what to do, what to do technically. But in terms of going to the show, you definitely want, if you're stuck on how to do certain things like sound design, how to create certain sound designs, and I would definitely, go to it. But definitely it's not something for not a beginner though. And I've known people who are pretty established that's gone. Um, and they were able to just learn different techniques from these other producers in a different way, and maybe they were able to pick up techniques that they never thought about doing before, and it helped them in their project later on. So, and I think they were able to get on a label with reaching altitude, yeah, with Marlo. So it was it's a very good experience for pretty much any level except for maybe beginner.
That's good to know. And for those out there listening that may be looking for some guidance, that could be helpful. So let's talk about a recent gig. You and it was kind of like a Ladies of Trance gig. That I saw happen. I wish I could have made it, but what was it? What was the vibes like sharing the kind of the stage with Jess and Christina Sky, and what was that like? I know San Francisco has a good scene and a good trans family, so talk a little bit about that experience.
Oh, it was amazing. I think it's one of my favorite ones. It's just I was really pumped up and excited for it because it was just I was able to meet Jess, and then I was able to play with Christina and Sky again. And yeah, I guess we were all really pumped and supporting each other even before the event. And when we came there, we brought it. We brought a game, and it was an amazing night. Everybody had fun and enjoyed themselves, and I think it's something that I feel should be done more actually, because this is like you mentioned earlier, it's such a male dominated industry that I feel like a lot of the female doesn't get enough um, attention or enough exposure, and like that night, I just felt, and even from the fans and the people that were attending that night were so shocked and so surprised how amazing, everybody did that, perform that night. And I do hope that there's going to be more events like that, and maybe I'll start, you know, maybe pitching it to other people, and then just I don't know. I've even thought about just going to different cities and just getting everybody uh, ringed up and then do something like that, because I think it's different. It was definitely different, and it was great. Yeah, it was amazing.
Now, like along that, I mean, those nights would be great. I feel like we need more kind of like ladies of trance or whatever, but
Yeah.
um, not only just
Mm.
highlighted nights like that, but I'm starting to notice that there's been a lot more recent like collaborations
Mm-hmm.
among. And what are your thoughts going forward? Are you working on anything in particular, or uh, that you can talk about that maybe it doesn't have to be just with another female artist. It could be anybody within uh, the scene. But I know you're like you. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the production side that you're working on.
Well, my favorite, or I love to create vocal trance, and um, meeting up with Jess, I guess, opening a door, an opportunity to be able to work with her, and um, let's just say that uh, yeah, potentially, she and I could be working on something together. Um, but yeah, it's I think there's usually not that many. Uh, uh, it mostly it's always a collaboration between a female singer and a male producer, but I don't there's not that many female and female team up. But I think that's something might be in the works in the future. I think that's going to happen more often as there's more female producers. Um, yeah, so that's I would love to work with Jess, and so um, I just have to send over some of the stuff and see how we see we go from there. So that's what's currently right now working in the works right now.
Great. So you mentioned earlier you also like house and um,
Hmm.
and other genres. How has liking other genres helped you? I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but helped you with your production and kind of probably your DJing and understanding other genres. What can that bring to somebody who feels that they need to be pigeonholed or stick to a specific genre?
Um, I guess having that just brings something a little bit different, a little bit more, diverse, and not too rigid, and it's just out of the box. Uh, Definitely, I before I used to just mix trance or mix, stay in one category, and for me, just it was just it didn't bring any excitement for me, and being able to incorporate and put all the different genres together uh, bring a lot has given me a lot of excitement and a lot of passion and a lot of just just basically excitement, and just passion for what I'm doing, and I think the fans that I play for, I mean, they can definitely feel it, and I think that's the important thing is just to bring your feeling, being able to express and bring out your feeling instead of just doing something redundant and um, bringing different emotions into the set, and that's what I like to do instead of just one or few emotions. To bring everything because we're human, and I like to be able to express that and be able to have others feel that as well. So, and I think every genre has different flavor and emotions, and I think that's what's benefit me uh, in my production and also in my DJing career.
I agree. Kind of to go back to kind of what we were talking about, I just feel like being, well, feeling like you need to be obligated to like one genre or one sound,
Yeah,
it feels like it would be a little bit limiting on a
right.
person and
Yeah,
more
yeah,
stressful.
exactly.
So, let's talk about a little bit of some events. Uh, did did I see? Just want to make sure I read this correctly. You went to the Unconscious Festival, right? This past year,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and just it looked phenomenal. It looked like a great time, and obviously the
Mm-hmm.
setting. What was that experience like? Just being around like-minded. I mean, obviously we get that throughout the whole scene, but since that festival is not as well known as some other festivals, can you speak
Mm-hmm.
to what that experience was like?
Oh, that so going to Unconscious was a first festival that I've ever went to outside of the United States, and I loved it. It was the setting was just amazing. It was in Phuket, on the beach, and uh, the the whole experience was great because like you mentioned, it wasn't isn't as well known or as uh, it's just it's probably like the second year that they've thrown it, and the amount of people that came was just right. It was just sweet, and it was the whole entire experience was just amazing. It just I never experienced anything like that before. I've heard it was like luminosity, but I've never been to luminosity. But it's just like luminosity in Asia, and it's just a great feeling to experience that in Asia because I know the trans scene is not quite there in Asia yet, but to go to this event, it just felt like you know going to a U.S. event, and just the crowd was just from all over the world and mostly from Asia, and it was just good to be there and have uh, feel to see the Asian um, uh, trans fans enjoying it, and um, yeah, it's definitely something that you want to experience because it's just different, definitely different because it's in Asia um, and the environment and everything is it is and I'm definitely going again next year. So and yeah, and I think I haven't gone to EDC here in Las Vegas, but I went when it was in Los Angeles, and um, it was it was nice. It was really chill, but then you have uplifting trance, so it felt balanced. It didn't feel overwhelming, and it was a very great experience. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anybody that wants to go to a event in Asia, especially right now. If it's really nice that like the scene is or the festival is not as well known, so maybe it's comfortable to be at.
So, is there an event or a festival that you have on your list to play? And is there one that you have on your list to attend and vice versa? Probably eventually both, but is there one that we kind of have on, people have vision boards, but that's not what I'm saying. But like, do you have one kind of, obviously you want to play as many as you can, but is there one that you're hoping that you'll get the chance to do? Because I know there's been a lot of um, artists that have recently got opportunities with the Dream State brand. So,
Right.
is there any festivals or that you have on your list?
Yeah, definitely. I know because they have a Dream State here in San Francisco last year. I'm not sure if they're gonna have it this year, but and then they have one in Los Angeles as well. And that's one of my uh, festivals that I would love to play at. Because it's in my home state, and um, and I would like to also play at the Unconscious one too as well, and the Luminosity. I think yeah, playing at the beach really does is amazing experience, and I would definitely want to be able to play at those events. But for right now, just uh, right in front of me, and I think I would be happy with playing at Penn State. Sure. Yeah, and
Great.
yeah.
So what do you have any advice for somebody? Well, let's just kind of break it down for other people who might want to pursue, and what I mean by that, more like women or in this business, because like we've talked about, there's been a lot of success of female vocalists, but what is your advice for somebody wanting to produce and DJ who is not a man?
Well, my advice is, just to be who you are. Um, and basically just know yourself and be who you are and pursue your love and passion. Um, and, don't let anything or anyone get in the way. But the most important thing is just be yourself and be unique. And pretty much a lot of things will fall into place. That's what I've learned from my own experiences. I know who I am, despite whatever anyone else might think. As long as you follow that, you will get to your goal and your passion or whatever it is that you want to pursue. Um, and yeah, and I just don't care what uh, anyone else thinks or says, or just don't be afraid to uh, be who you are and to express yourself. Pretty much is what I would say to any female DJs or producers that want to pursue their passion.
Great. Well, is there anything that I may have missed or anything that you would like to plug? Obviously, I'm going to put the links to your social media and your website in this
Sure.
episode description. But is there anything that I may have missed or that you want to shout out?
No. That's pretty much you've got all the answers that I can think of about me and what I think about what's going on with the scene right now. Yeah, pretty much. No, I just thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting, and I'm definitely a fan of your work, and hopefully we can chat again and meet up in the future.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much.